Loading. We are live. Welcome to Pej's Recovery Corner. I'm here today with a very, very, very special guest, Danielle. Say your last name.
Theriot.
Theriot, or in some circles, the Riot.
The Riot. It spells the Riot.
That's right. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you here was plain and simple because you're a fucking legend.
Legends never die.
It's
true.
so good to have you here today. So,
Thank you.
So Danielle, usually the way that we do this is we delve way, 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 way into your past, your upbringing, where you're from, where you were born, all that stuff. Get into what happened, and then other things like the recovery portion. So Tell me, who's Danielle? Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Orange County, East Side, Costa Mesa.
You're from East Side, Costa Mesa?
Yeah.
I never knew this.
Yes, 20th and Irvine Avenue.
I'm a Costa Mesa kid originally.
Yeah.
Well, not originally. Utah first, but then later on Costa Mesa. So tell me, born in
Hoag Hospital,
Newport Beach.
Yep.
Okay. And you went to where? Costa Mesa High?
I went to, many high schools due to my addiction.
You went to the continuation school?
That's where I ended up, yes.
Was it the Back Bay over in Newport?
Back Bay, where the winners go.
That's right.
I have 3 siblings. They're all normies. Mm-hmm. We were raised sort of with a plan to be athletes, and that was the only plan.
Right.
So I ran track. I was really fast. I was at Newport Harbor, and then I switched to Corona Del Mar for their coach.
Okay.
And I did really well there until you
didn't.
The pressure of track and field, I'm a perfectionist. So I got 3rd once, and I just thought, all right, I'm done. And then
because you got 3rd place, you were down on yourself?
Yeah, it's really bad. Track is a lot of pressure. It's a one-man sport.
A perfectionist much?
Yes.
And how did that happen?
My dad put a lot of pressure. I had a coach, and then my dad also played the coach, and it was just a lot of pressure. And then after I quit, I met the high school sweetheart. And then very quickly he smoked weed, and I was probably 17, and I tried smoking weed.
At the age of 17?
Yeah.
That's the first time you tried a substance?
Yep.
Because it was just...
We were really sheltered, and my dad was really strict.
Okay, but you were influenced by this guy?
Yeah, he smoked weed, so then I started to thinking nothing of it, just thinking it'll be a few times. And in the program, they talk about the disease being progressive over time. Mm-hmm. I was addicted instantly to everything.
You loved it?
Yeah, so...
When you say everything, what else was there?
Cocaine, ecstasy, oxy, heroin, alcohol.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some heavy, I understand that the cocaine and the ecstasy maybe during that period, but just bundle up heroin, oxys, how did that happen?
So I actually got really lucky with heroin and oxy. I kind of tried to get addicted just because everyone was doing it. And I was like, what is so great about this? And so I tried it, and I don't know if it just doesn't hit the correct receptors in my brain, but I was not blown away by it.
So those being downers and cocaine and ecstasy kind of being stimulants, what, did you like doing the faster stuff?
Yeah. So I started very shortly after weed, I started drinking, and it had to be a long 6 years for anyone in my life because I was addicted to everything right away. So
this is between 17 and 23.
Yes. And if I wasn't doing drugs and drinking, I was in jail or psych wards or rehab. There was no job. There was no school. I picked up my first drink and was a nightmare right away. Mm-hmm. Alcohol and I don't mix well, but I am a major alcoholic. And
when you say first drink, was it beer? Was it harder stuff like hard liquor?
Harder stuff. I don't like beer. It's it's a
I
slow
never liked beer.
No, it's a slow process. It fills you up.
Right.
I'm not into it.
Right. So it was straight up hard stuff.
Yeah, and then I started cocaine and it was over from there. I just remember right when I did it, asking the people around me, what is this? How much does it cost? And how do I get this every day?
Was money an object? Did it even matter?
Well, in the beginning, your parents aren't, really clued in.
Right.
And so I was still getting money. And after CDM, I went back to Newport Harbor because I wasn't running track anymore and got.
So CDM, you went to Corona Del Mar High School.
Yeah, that was my best year. All downhill.
Athletically, your best year going downhill?
No, I was an athlete. I never drank. And
what grade were you in? Junior?
Sophomore?
Okay.
Sophomore. Then went back to Harbor for junior year and got suspended in the first 2 weeks for having marijuana on me. And
how'd you get caught?
I lived like a block away. My parents divorced and my mom got an apartment near Ensign Junior High and it was very close to Newport Harbor. Mm-hmm. And I took a break to go smoke and then came back and the security lady on her golf cart asked to search me. And so
you talking about the narc, the school narc?
Yeah, so rude.
Yeah. I had a lot of interactions with the school narc myself.
Yes.
A lot of chasing, like being chased by the golf cart.
Yeah, she took it very seriously.
Right. I actually like to give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Like, I was a rebel. I mean, it's like, you want to mess with me?
I get scared. I'm like, sure, search me.
And they searched you and found that.
Yeah, and then Harbor decided that I need to go to this school called Hope Institute in order to return.
Back to the high school.
Yeah, but I never made it back.
What was Hope Institute?
It's this school for,
like a secondary educational learning facility?
People that are in trouble. And
trouble, the drug addicts.
Yeah.
The people that fall behind in school, the ditchers, the cutting class types. Yes, that's where you went.
Yes, and
I never made it back to regular high school because over there I
got kicked out.
But what were you doing at the Hope Institute?
Well, at that time I was doing cocaine, drinking, and marijuana.
No schoolwork?
You know what? I always did my schoolwork. I think it's because of my anxiety. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I at least need to get this done.
Okay.
But I got kicked out because I think I got enraged over something and tried to punch the teacher and then got kicked out and then ended up at Back Bay.
Have you ever look back and try to see where your anxiety originated?
I had it my whole life.
Ever since you were a kid?
It was a nightmare, yeah.
Did you feel like you wouldn't be an underachiever, so you had to achieve, and if you weren't on your A game, then you would get the anxiety?
Yeah, and my dad's bipolar 1, manic all the time. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of success because of it. He ran track for UCLA, went to the prelims for the Olympics. So that's where we got our sports plans. Mm-hmm. And we really didn't have a choice, right, whether we liked it or not. But he was very strict. So I just had it in me. I have to get these things done. Even when I was an addict, I was like, okay, my life is falling apart, but I need to at least do my schoolwork.
Okay. So when you said for those next 6 years, does that mean you had gotten sober at 23?
I did get sober at 23.
I met you when you were newly sober, right? Like a year sober?
Yeah.
Before?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said your dad was diagnosed with bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, did you know that your dad had this diagnosis, or is this something that you learned later?
Everybody knew something was off. Everybody in Orange County. They were scared of my dad.
Why? Explain bipolar 1 to me, that especially the description of your dad. Was it hot and cold? What was it?
He was very abusive toward me, especially when I went into my addiction. So when I quit track, it was devastating for him.
Mm-hmm, because he was already athletic himself. Mm-hmm. And the plan was
go to UCLA and run.
For Danielle to kill it,
yeah,
as far as being an athlete, like a professional athlete.
Yeah.
That was his hope, so it pissed him off?
Oh, yeah. And then I was in my addiction, and he just started, he's verbally abusive. Okay. And
sometimes verbally abusive is gnarlier than physical.
Yeah, I mean,
It can tear you down.
if you heard the things he said,
Mhm.
it was insane.
Right.
And we weren't like allowed to do anything.
Right.
So when I started acting up, he would like show up to houses I was at.
Where you were partying?
Yeah. And like threaten their life.
Threaten the people's lives? Where was it? Like down in Newport Beach?
Yeah.
Like down in the jungle?
High school students would throw parties like at their parents. And then when I really got into my addiction, it was, the peninsula, of course,
Yeah.
bar hopping, and then eventually motels and stuff like that.
It got to that point.
Oh, yeah.
So
Fast.
did the cocaine turn into like meth? Did you ever do meth?
I tried meth, and after 7 days, I ended up in a psych ward. And I just saw what meth was doing to people, both physically, and it just is an insane drug. And I ended up in a psych ward, and I just thought cocaine was the better fit for me.
Okay, fair. You said ecstasy. When you said you were doing ecstasy, was this something that you were doing in school, in high school, or were you doing it like at raves? Were you going to raves or clubs?
Yeah. So when I was at Back Bay High School, it's a continuation school. So you put all the people together that are in trouble. It's not a good mix.
Right. Because everybody's now figuring out who can get what.
Yes. People were snorting like Xanax off their desk in class.
Did you?
No, but I would.
Did you take Xanax back then?
No, those were never really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would do drugs during school, but yes, I got into ecstasy, and it was the same as Coke, same as alcohol. Who sells this? How much does it cost? And how do I get it every day? And I met the dealer and became his best friend. And
did you have to spend less because you became his best friend?
I spent nothing. He gave me like 3 ecstasy pills a day, and there
was this based off of your good looks, or were you dating this guy?
Was not dating him. Yeah.
You were just a homie.
Yeah, we had like this rave crew.
Were you a raver?
We would go to the small ones every weekend in LA.
Like the clubs.
I don't even think I've been to a massive rave.
Yeah, those were good enough.
Those were great.
They were like the intimate setting where there's music, there's
party
drugs.
Yeah, I would dance it was amazing.
Did you dress like a raver?
I don't know, not like the full on ravers.
You didn't have like the little Princess Leia buns and like
I would wear
pacifier
like a dress or shorts and shirt.
Yeah, you were just like the little Newport chick up there.
Yeah. But my first rave, I'll never forget. I was like blown away by ecstasy. I was dancing all night. It was the best feeling in the world, but I didn't know anything about ecstasy. So I was like chewing my mouth.
Chewing your mouth?
Yeah. And
not gum?
No, and you don't feel pain.
Like this?
Yeah. That's why they have the pacifiers.
That's right.
So there's like
people always wonder like why do kids that are raving want pacifiers? When you're doing ecstasy, there's a lot of things that go on. Like you want to put the face mask, like the surgical mask, with the Vicks on the inside of it, because it like intensifies the high and just the whole act of it. Were you doing that too?
No, but I thought people were just wearing the pacifier as like a look.
I had a gold one, like a gold-plated pacifier.
Oh, no.
But that was for the look.
Whoa, you were professional.
Well, no, I mean I was slinging dope, but so like.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was like a persona.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had to like carry that.
Yeah.
But I do remember like a lot of people were sucking pacifiers when I first saw that. Mm-hmm. I was like, what the fuck is this all about? They're like really tapping into their inner child.
Yeah, and I put it in too late. I had already chewed my mouth open.
Yeah, your lip was sufficed.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so you had your rave stint,
motel stint,
and Dad was coming and finding you at motels.
Actually, yes, and eventually,
what a buzzkill!
The worst. Oh my God.
To be interrupted in your drug using by your dad. All your friends, so-called friends, are just like, what the fuck?
Yes. And there was this Coke dealer. So my parents would kick me out a lot. They separated when I was 15. Mm-hmm. And I would latch on to dealers. So the Coke dealer, I was homeless and I showed up to his house and I said, "Can I live here?" And
At what age? 22?
probably 18.
Oh, 18. You were homeless?
Yeah, my parents said no more. And I'm telling you, my addiction went down quick.
Hence the reason you got sober is really young.
Yeah, because I had nothing to distract me. No school, no work, just straight survival off like friends. You know how friends stick together in their addiction?
Sure.
So motel hopping,
Couch
living at the
surfing?
dealers. Yeah. The dealer said I could live there. He lived with a few other drug addicts and he said I could live there if I like brought my friends over for parties.
Of course.
Yeah.
Don't bring the dudes, bring the chicks.
Yeah, and this guy was so interesting. He gave his Coke to everyone. Like guys, girls, just as long as you're partying with him. I think he was lonely or something.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that like to do cocaine, especially like well-to-do men and maybe some women.
Yeah.
That they're not even about the sex or anything like that.
No.
They would just like to have people around to talk with and like do drugs.
And I always found those people.
Well, of course you did.
I was like, wow, how generous.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, your dad was bipolar 1. You were diagnosed bipolar 2. When did that happen? When did you know?
Before my addiction.
So at what age?
Probably 15.
That young?
Yeah, because I had an eating disorder.
Okay.
I didn't know how to deal with my dad and like what was going on in my house, all the chaos. So,
do you think your eating disorder originated from the chaos within the house?
I think so.
And I mean, you said it was right around that time that the divorce happened.
Yeah.
Did the divorce fuck with you?
Well, I told my mom to divorce him.
Okay, so you didn't care.
No, she said she wanted to wait till we were 18, but I told her, what's the point?
Just do it now.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Okay. So eating disorder, did you know you had an eating disorder? Or did you have body dysmorphia?
No, it kind of just started as restricting.
Like,
I don't know why.
Explain restricting for those that don't know.
It started with not eating and then counting calories. And then I had this thing where I could only have like 800 calories a day.
Okay. So you were kind of obsessed with calorie counting. And now did you become anorexic?
And bulimic.
And bulimic. So you were purging?
Yeah. Anything I ate.
Anything you ate. So the psychology behind it was I can eat, but I also I don't want to hold it down because I don't want the calories to go within my system. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go make myself throw up. Would you stick your finger down your throat?
Yep.
And then
quickly I got to 85 pounds.
Because now you're not holding down any food and you're not gaining weight. Okay. So did your teeth get fucked up as a result of this?
No, I think it's because I dropped the weight so fast and so many people got concerned and my dad was like, this is not happening.
But did they know?
Oh yeah. Cause the weight it was concerning and he was so worried about my track career that he was like, we have to fix this immediately.
Okay.
I went to a nutritionist and a doctor. The doctor said if I don't follow the nutritionist's plan, then she's going to send me to treatment. Were
you truthful with the doctor about what you were doing?
Well, yeah. It's
restricting, bulimia, purging.
Yeah. My dad walked in on me a couple times, but...
Walked in on you throwing up? Mm-hmm. Like you were over by the toilet purposely just...
Yeah, and he would lose it.
He caught you doing that?
Yeah, and lose it.
And how would you react?
I was just scared of him because he didn't react like a normal parent, like with concern. It was more anger and
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and like mean remarks.
Sure.
And, like locking me in my room and yeah.
Do you have a relationship with your dad today?
I do. We can get to that.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Just curious. Because I very much relate. I mean, I wasn't bulimic or anything like that, but there was a lot of turmoil within the house. Verbally, sometimes physically, from my pops, which I really love him to death. I know it's all he knew how to be.
That's what I've come to.
Yeah.
He was doing the best he could at the time.
Yeah. Plus you sprinkle some bipolar in there. And of course, they sometimes can't help themselves.
Well, Annie's a drink to die alcoholic.
Okay. Is he in recovery?
No. I mean, he's not drinking right now.
To die?
Yeah, but when he does, it's like my
It's
drinking.
hard drinking. Okay.
Yeah.
So now at 15, you had the eating disorder. You then, how did bipolar come into the mix? Like, how did you find out?
I think because I had similar, characteristics that my dad had, like rage,
Mm-hmm.
fits of rage.
Were you violent?
I have been.
Right. Within relationships and things like that?
I have been.
Right.
But it wasn't like it would happen like one time and it would be like a shock to me.
Sure.
And it was mortifying. And
like afterwards, you thought, what the hell? Who is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Like right afterward.
Oh, right. Immediately.
I'd be like,
you'd see red and all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Who's that? Right.
Yeah. It's just a nightmare. So they medicated me and all this stuff.
Well, when they medicated you, did someone say, this is a problem, we need to take you to a doctor, like a psychiatrist, to see like what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Who was it? Dad that took you?
And my mom.
And mom.
The depression wasn't normal. I was
You were depressed at 15.
Yeah, and at CDM, when I had never done drugs or alcohol, I would go into these depressions and they were deep. It wasn't just regular sadness. My friends were concerned.
Sure.
They were like, this isn't normal.
Do you think that eating disorder is an addiction or like more of an obsession?
For me, it was an obsession, but I am aware that eating disorders are usually like a long-term struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always going to be there.
Right.
It wasn't like that for me. Once I recovered from that and found drugs and alcohol, it never happened again. So I think it was an escape.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes that's what happens is a lot of people that will have an eating disorder at a very early age, and later it'll transfer into other things like drugs, alcohol. Were you ever a cutter?
No, I tried it once to see if there was relief. I heard people were doing that.
And you had no relief.
I didn't like it.
Right. So when the doctor then said, well, I mean, they assessed you and you told them things and they're like, they just determined, okay, you're bipolar too.
Yeah. And bipolar is really genetic. And my dad's bipolar and 1 in 4 kids get it. I have 3 siblings. I think I got it.
The other 3 normie kids didn't?
Yeah, they're normal. They drink normal. They're successful.
So you said medication. They started to give you medication at the age of 15?
Yeah, I was taking medication, going to therapy. And then when I started doing drugs and alcohol, I had this psychiatrist who said he knew I was using. And he said I had to choose between drugs and alcohol and the medication. And I chose drugs and alcohol.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where it started to become things like weed, alcohol, cocaine,
very
stimulants.
Quickly. Weed, alcohol, cocaine, ecstasy. Then everyone was doing heroin and oxy, and I would just do it around them.
Were you doing heroin and oxy into your later 20s? Is that when it happened? I'm sorry, like in your early 20s, because you got sober at 23.
Yeah.
When we talk about oxys, was it pills?
Yeah, my friends were smoking them.
Okay, and how were they getting them?
Dealers. They at the time they were like $80.
Was it the Oxy 80s?
Yeah, and $80 a pill.
Yeah, because they just lived up to their name. No, but I remember it was $80 a pill.
I was blown away.
Well, it's because people were doctor shopping. People like me for that. I never did any of that shit. Like not oxys. Yeah. However, I did have doctors that I would go to, and they take a picture of you, and like I'd say I have back problems, and they'd give me a script, and then I'd go sell it to my heroin friends because they would be able to shoot that shit. Yeah. And I was a tweaker, so like whatever money I was making, I'd go buy more meth.
Oh my God.
Calculated tweaker, right? Yeah. So I remember the 80s, and then they changed them to Roxy's and all that, right, to 30s. But so when you were smoking them with your friends, you now had developed an opiate addiction, right?
No, I'm telling you, it's so weird.
It didn't sit with you like it does with others.
I really just don't think opiates hit me like they hit other people.
I think it's different for some people.
But I will say Norcos, Vicodin, like stuff like that, those I felt like the euphoria and the high.
You said heroin. Was it black tar heroin?
Yeah, and I would smoke it sometimes.
How did you get that? Just these people that you were hanging out with?
Yeah, because I was really with the real drug addicts who were doing nothing else.
These were all Newport kids?
Yeah.
From pretty good families?
Yep. Some not, but some yeah.
Okay. So with heroin, you just smoked it?
smoked it.
Did you shoot it?
So before I got the 6 years sober,
Mhm.
I had put together 6 months.
Right.
I got prescribed Vicodin for getting my wisdom teeth pulled.
Okay.
And then I quickly ran out of those. And then
Was it a large bottle with lots of them in there or what?
I think just a normal, yeah. And then I called the doctor
Mhm.
and I said I lost the bottle.
Right.
And he did not buy it. I think he was on the fence. He said that I'll write you one more, and that's the last one. And then here's why I don't like opiates. I took the bottle of Vicodin, and then the second one, I did the same thing. And it did not affect me the way the first one did. You quickly need more, and I don't like opiates because
You knew it right then.
I'm like, this is dumb.
Okay.
You don't get high anymore.
So then why at 23 did you get sober? Was there some crisis situation? Did you go to rehab?
Yeah, and what's interesting is every time I went to rehab, I checked myself in.
Every time? How many times?
I've been many, probably 6. One time was court ordered.
Court order? What happened? You get in trouble?
I got 3 cocaine charges in 1 month, but not cocaine on me, for being under the influence. They would see me really wasted and then draw my blood in the jail and then realize I was on cocaine. So an under the influence charge.
So wait, see you really wasted as in you're like walking down the street on cocaine and they pull you over and say, you look high?
Yeah, or someone would call the cops on me because I'm telling you, when I drink, it's not.
Oh, alcohol was in the mix.
I am a drink to die alcoholic.
Okay.
And it obviously has progressed now. I can talk about later to a different level.
Okay.
Like to where I'll die.
Right.
But in the beginning, I think because of my bipolar, when I drink, I become enraged.
So it totally intensifies your mental health
and
disorder.
It's not a good time for anyone.
Which a lot, I mean, you know me, I work in the field, I do a lot of interventions, and I get a lot of people who I interact with that are diagnosed with various mental health illnesses, like schizoaffective, schizophrenia, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and they think that when they're doing these drugs that relieve them, even weed, they think it's helping them.
Yeah.
It's fucking them up worse.
Even if their life is falling apart, they just feel better.
Because in that moment, it's like, there is a sense of relief.
Just not for anyone around them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's me.
All of a sudden, they're going to like fly off the Richter. You don't know what the like.
Yes.
It's a whirlwind. It's in the process. It's
yes.
formatting. It's going to come at you, and you don't know when.
It's relieving for me.
Sure.
But no one around me.
Okay.
And I had a lot of near-death experiences.
Episodes.
Oh yeah, like I was on ecstasy one morning, and alcohol, and I just started roaming around the alleys of the peninsula. I got a phone call from a family member, which was triggering because they're not addicts, and it pissed me off, I guess. I punched whatever window was in front of me, pulled out, blood just starts spraying everywhere. I was like, oh my God. So I was to my brother, I was like, I gotta go, I'm dying. And I don't know what happened, but I passed out in the alley from the blood loss. My friend, who, God bless him, he was in addiction too, but he always looked out for me. So he was concerned that I left. He just knows me. Right. And he went to look for me. And so he followed a blood trail and found me in the alley. And by this point, there was an all points bulletin for me because my brother had called the police. And then...
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Because remember, I said I'm dying and then I hung up.
But just the fact that they're following a blood trail to be able to find you.
Yes.
That means you were like pouring a lot of blood out of your hand?
It was everywhere. My friend flagged down a police officer who was not helpful. I think he'd arrested me before. So
he's like that little druggy chick.
Yeah. He said to my friend, oh, I know her. And it, what a bummer. But I went to the hospital. They said I was like a little bit, maybe like an inch, half an inch away from
death.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So a lot of experiences like that. Risky.
So that's the reason, like, it was things that were happening in your life that ended you up in rehab over and over again.
Yeah, because I think because of my bipolar, I get so depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I check into rehab. And I'm telling you, my whole 6-year addiction, I was going to AA on my own accord. Sitting in, still my home group, sitting in that meeting, loaded, dressed with zero self-respect.
What do you mean, like sexually revealing?
Yes.
Okay.
Looking back, super embarrassing. What I, thought of myself was in these meetings. And then 6 years in that meeting, one of my best friends today approached me and he said very bluntly, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
As far as not staying sober?
Yeah. Why are you in this meeting? You don't put together any time for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
You don't work the steps. You don't have a sponsor. And he goes, I mean, just my opinion.
You're wasting time.
He said, "Get the fuck out."
Just like that.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And then he said, "Or go ask that lady right there to sponsor you." Just random lady. And I did. And I worked the steps and I got sober for 5 years and 9 months.
Okay. How old are you now?
Now I'm 33.
Okay. And you put together that amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happened? I mean, did you fall off the scale?
Yeah, my first year I'm on that pink cloud and like everything's getting better. My family cannot believe that I'm sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I decide I want to help people.
Right.
So I went to Hope Institute, got my CAADAC, did 3 months Monday
Hope
through
Institute
Friday.
was the same place you went to when you were...
Oh, no, never mind. Centaur University.
Centaur.
Thank you. Yeah, so I went there.
That was Mickey Troxel.
Yeah.
That was her place, yeah.
I liked it. I did Monday through Friday.
It's like an accelerated version of getting your drug and alcohol studies done.
Yeah, but you do go 5 days a week.
It was online stuff?
No, in person.
In person. Okay, so then you became a counselor. You were working in the field of addiction.
My mom said, get, I think, 6 months sober, and she would send me to Centaur. She would pay for it.
Right.
Because I don't stay sober. And I did. And I did the class. I did my internship at Pat Moore. And then I got hired at Northbound.
Nice.
Yeah.
As a counselor, as a drug and alcohol counselor.
Yeah, I was on informal probation still. I had those 3 drug charges, and then I violated with a DUI. And then I had to go to jail for 45 days. Mm-hmm. And then, so I was still on probation, and Northbound didn't allow that. So I was actually like...
They didn't allow for you to work there because you were on probation.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe, but yeah, that was the reason they told me. So
it's like you're trying to better yourself. But you know what? I relate. I was working at Newport Academy with adolescents.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first job.
Yeah.
Working in treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And Department of Justice decided to step in and take me out of that position because they thought that an old meth dealer shouldn't be working with adolescents. I'm like, I'm fucking trying to keep them off of drugs. Like, what are you talking about?
I can't stand stuff like that.
But you know what? I went and fought that case, and it took me months and months, and I had my rehab counselor and my psychologist and my family and everybody that came and vouched for me. And then I got they finally granted me a probationary time. I could like go back to work in addiction treatment with adolescents for 2 years. But at that point I was already working at Morningside. So it was like, I was already
moved on to adults.
Yeah. Adult working with adults that acted like adolescents a lot of times, but we won't go there.
Absolutely.
Right. You already know. Needy people.
I did the same thing. I was like flying high on my pink cloud. So I showed up to court on my own and advocated to get me off of probation early. Mm-hmm. And the judge asked me probably 3 times my sobriety date at a different, I think, to see if I was lying.
Right.
So I told her the sobriety date over and over.
Because you had a rap sheet.
Yes.
You had a history.
She didn't trust me. She thought I just probably wanted to get off probation.
Exactly.
So I can
They're like, let's really figure out if Danielle's really telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I told her I want to work for this company, and she let me off. And I immediately drove to Northbound, and I was like, I got off probation, and they couldn't believe it. So they were like, wow, you really want this job?
Right.
So I
How long
started
did you do
working.
that job for?
Maybe 3, almost 4 years.
Okay. And then you were obviously involved in your recovery process during that time. You're now in your mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And when I met you, you were representing Silver Lining, which was a new IOP.
Yeah.
And listen, when I met you, I was like, who is this chick and why have I never met her before? Because she's like excited for life.
Yeah.
She loves her recovery. Like she's really cool,
Mhm.
really nice. And like I wasn't sure. Like I was like so young and so like thriving and on top of like her recovery. Like we talked
Yeah.
about it. We talked about your home group and all the different places
Mhm.
that you've been and where you grew up and all that. And I was like, amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I guess like down the line, some things happened and
Mhm.
do you think you relapsed, right?
I've relapsed a couple of times after long-term sobriety.
And this was into your 30s or in your late 20s or when?
Late 20s was my first relapse after time.
Okay. And your relapses were what? With alcohol, with drugs, with what?
Alcohol. This is when the drinking has progressed.
Okay.
Northbound changed my life. That's where I developed the passion for helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was prior to like insurance and all that. So
Sure.
So these people were in treatment for real clients.
Yeah, they weren't hopping.
They wanted help.
They weren't getting paid.
Or their parents wanted them to get help.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a treatment tech for 2 months, quickly moved to case management, and that's where my life changed. I still check in with some of the clients that were on my caseload, and it was life-changing. Knowing that they liked and loved their counselor and really thought that I was helping.
Right.
And, the workload got to be a little too much. So I moved to client advocacy, crisis intervention, AMA blocking.
Okay.
Loved that.
Right.
Prevented a lot of people from leaving.
Right.
And they stayed sober. So I've loved crisis intervention.
I've done it a lot too. I love it. It's like one of the funnest jobs.
Yeah.
It's trying. It's hard.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, how do you do it? And I don't know how I do it sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But then when you're like in that moment where it's make or break and you're trying to talk someone off the ledge and you're just like, come on, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't want you to end up at a sandpiper killing yourself.
Yes.
Like, let's get you help. And then they're like, okay. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, no, I'm going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you don't block every single one.
But you say that your job kind of became an overload. So were you making your job your recovery?
Eventually I had to. The workload was...
It's like you couldn't make it to your own meetings and be able to be in your own recovery because the job had become everything.
We had a caseload of sometimes over 12. I was running like 6 groups a week. The family calls at the end of every single week. Every parent you call. The referent updates. Whoever referred the client there, you would update them weekly, each referent. So if every client had a referent, that was a long email every week. I got burnt out. I advocated. Yes. Yeah. I think because of my mental illness, it was extra hard on me.
It was just taking too much out of you.
It was taking everything out of me. And I noticed everyone else was just doing it and they were okay. And I was slowly not being okay.
So what led you to a drink?
Well, eventually I stopped working for Northbound, and that was really hard on me because, I loved Northbound.
Right.
We really helped a lot of people. And
you guys were competing with us when I was at Morningside, which is no longer there.
Oh, yeah. For whatever reasons.
I love Northbound, too. I loved it then.
Yeah. And so at 5 years and 9 months, I think I wasn't working at the time. I had fallen into a deep depression. But that happens to me a lot. But this one day I just woke up and drove to the bar.
Just like that?
At 1 p.m. drove to the bar.
Was the depression the mental health? Was it a breakup? Did you lose someone? Was there any kind of grieving process, anything like that? Or was it just because you're just down on life?
This one was depression
Okay.
and suicidal
Ideation?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I get that a lot, which is sad.
So you would have these feelings of, I just don't want to live. I don't like my life. Fuck everything. I want to die.
Yes. And sometimes I would attempt, but this time I drank.
Sometimes you would attempt to kill yourself?
Yeah, I have a few attempts. Mainly taking pills.
Okay. I would never have imagined this with you.
Oh, I'm in and out of psych wards. Especially in my addiction, because when I'm coming off the drugs and alcohol, most people just like come down and get over it.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt like, okay, it's time to die.
Mm-hmm.
I can't live this way anymore. And I would check into treatment, get out, go right back to using. I would check myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't let go of my friends. I couldn't accept that you had to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up here, so it was really hard to let go of your friends that you at the time considered good friends and family.
True.
Yeah, so I would always relapse. But the suicide attempts were always like, take the pills, then realize you're dying, then get scared. And like want help.
It hurts my heart to hear this, because remember I told you when I met you, you were thriving, you were happy, you were excited for life.
Yeah.
So this is what I often think about, because I feel like I can talk about this stuff because I've suffered from mad amounts of depression.
Mm-hmm.
More when I was in my alcoholism and in my addiction, like active. Like I definitely contemplated suicide. I was just the type of person that I thought, if I try to drive my car off this cliff in Malibu, knowing with my fucking luck that the car will get demolished, I'll probably get shacked up in some fucking hospital bed.
Yeah.
As a paraplegic and be like, fuck, I couldn't even pull that off.
Yep.
Right. But I also think like there was a side of me, which is like my ego, possibly saying like, you don't really want to die. You just want to die and let people know that you want to die. So that's why you're going to ask for help.
Yeah.
So that you do end up in a psych ward. Because I've been to psych wards,
they're so fun.
It's like timeout.
Very interesting.
Timeout from life, and just you get to see really interesting people.
Oh yeah.
There's some shit I saw in one place that I can never erase from my mind, like some of the activities that were going on. So it hurts. What hurts my heart is that we get to be able to enjoy each other's company. I get to see your smiles and your laughter and all of that stuff, and then to hear that it gets that low, where we can become that low in our emotions and in our mental state, to the point where I just want to check out, or you want to check out. Like, I hope that never happens anymore.
Oh, me too. I mean, the suicide attempts are more impulsive, and they're about ending the pain.
Right.
Just like drinking, ending the pain. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm not the type of relapser that's like, oh, I'm going to control it this time.
Right.
I know what's going to happen. I know everything's going to go to shit very quickly, but it's worth it to me because I just need that relief.
Right.
But 5 years, 9 months, relapsed for 10 days, drank around the clock until my body rejected it. But by this point, you have friends in AA. Mm-hmm. So people that show up for you.
Right.
So,
a lot of people show up for you.
Oh, I know. I mean,
a lot.
They're in your house, like watching you drink to make sure you don't die.
Right.
And then I remember the 10th day, I called my old sponsor and she said, you need to talk to God. And I was so angry at that response. I was like, no, you need to fucking help me. Like, that's not going to help me.
Like, you need to help me talk to God? You wanted her to just help you.
Someone needs to do something.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not going to
And she's
work.
like, no, you're beyond human aid. Like, you need a higher power.
Yeah. She goes, go ask God to relieve you of the obsession. And I was so angry, I hung up. And then I was throwing up.
Was this recently?
No, that was the first relapse after that, my first long period of time. I crawled to the toilet. I was withdrawing. I was throwing up. And then I looked in the toilet and I was like, God, please help me stop drinking. And just like begging. Oh, it makes me emotional. But I was like, God, please help me stop drinking. Please help me stop drinking. And then I showed up to a meeting that a friend invited me to. He put out a trash can, let me throw up in the meeting, and I got sober again.
Okay.
For this last sobriety, for again 5 years.
Really?
I keep relapsing at 5 years.
So you would have altogether over 10 years of sobriety if you'd stayed from the very first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
The relapses are so short now because my drinking is so bad. So they don't last because I can't last.
When was the last time you relapsed?
I have 2 months now. So I had 5 years again. And I was debating whether or not to come on this because Pej and I have talking about mental health even prior to relapsing.
I remember. Yeah.
Because I think everyone talks about sobriety and AA, and I have had a long journey with mental health struggles.
Yes.
And this time I had 5 years. Something bad happened to me that I felt would be life altering. And I legitimately thought, okay, my future was just ripped from me, my plans. And I never in my life have I drank to not drink. I mean, I drank not to get drunk. I drank knowing how depressed I get. And I needed that, I guess, courage to kill myself. And I couldn't bring myself to do it sober. So I knew if I drank, at some point, I would feel that. And it, same thing again. Everyone in AA in my house, cops showing up, them telling the cops, if you don't take her in, she's going to kill herself. Cops said, we can't do anything. She knows what to say to us. We can't take her in. By third day, this one only lasted 3 days, I was rejecting the alcohol, throwing up everywhere. I just drink vodka around the clock.
Straight vodka.
Yes. And then the third day, no one was in my house anymore. And I got, that's when I attempted.
You have 2 months right now. What happens with Danielle when she goes through everything that you're describing right now and everything that happens? What makes you bounce back and decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to put some, I'm going to get back on the wagon. Like putting together 2 months is a decision that you make every day. Because as you said earlier, like there was times when you woke up, you're like, I'm going to the bar. It's like, I didn't even realize that the car just took me to the bar.
Yes.
And the alcohol just went in my mouth and it's now in my system.
Yeah.
How is it? What happens to you? Is there glimmers of hope? Is there somebody that says the right thing? Is there a connection to a higher power? Is it all of it to the point where you realize or decide, today I'm fucking staying sober. Today I'm going to stay sober no matter what I feel, what I go through, what kind of demons are overtaking my mind, what kind of negative talk, like self-talk I'm experiencing or enduring. Like, fuck all that. Today I'm staying sober. What is it that you put together 2 months? Because that, to me, that's a big deal. This whole thing of like, I go out at 5 years, or there's certain people I've seen in AA. There's one guy that I've seen for years and years. He's like, I always relapse at 6 years. I'm like, why? Are you just conditioned to think that it has to happen at 6 years?
Or you've got to let go of that.
You got to let go of that.
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. Like personally, like I could sit here and speak from a soapbox and be like, you must all have a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening as a result of working the 12 steps. So you are God-centered and you will never relapse again. I can't do that. I can do that from my own experience. I could talk about like what happened for me to be able to plug into that. But like, I have to respect mental health. I have to respect the fact that people are borderline. I have to respect that people have bipolar, that people have schizoaffective. This is real.
Yeah.
This is fucking real.
Yeah.
Right. But I also believe that God gives us all the chance to be able to tap into that.
I agree.
To be able to make those decisions on a daily basis and say, today I want to live.
Yeah.
Today I don't want to die today.
I think the difference for someone with mental health and someone that doesn't have mental health issues, I think, so when something bad happens, a normal person is sad, upset. Maybe they binge eat for a couple months. They're sad. That's normal. I think for someone with mental health issues, it is the end of the world. And this is never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So let me do everyone else a favor.
Right.
And I genuinely, in that moment, believed that my family would be better off without me, because I thought getting sober, you're just supposed to be fixed.
Right.
And I worked a solid program, not before this relapse. I always fall out sometimes. But when I was working a solid program, AA only covers so much. The 12 steps definitely provide you with the spiritual awakening, connection with God. But if you have a chemical imbalance or if you have significant trauma,
sure,
you have to look at that. The 12 steps don't necessarily cover that.
Right.
In 2015, at 4 years sober, I went to the Meadows in Wickenburg for trauma treatment.
Right.
And it was life-changing,
Mm-hmm.
what I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to differentiate between bipolar and a trauma response.
Okay.
So I always thought like my flip outs, my impulsive behavior was bipolar.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't?
Sometimes.
But sometimes it's stemming from trauma.
Yes. And I didn't know all these things. And so to me, this last suicide attempt, I really thought this was the end of the world and that my family would be better off without me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really did almost die. My friend heard me on the phone take the pills.
Mm-hmm. She
texted my mom, and my mom rushed over and just started slapping me because I was out on the floor. And she was just, I don't remember this.
She was trying to make you come to.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this. This is what people have told me.
Did they call the paramedics to pump your stomach and all that?
Yeah, the paramedics came. I was in Hogue for, I think, a week. Don't remember anything.
Were you in a coma? Were you just out?
Yeah, they were waiting for me to wake up. So they told my mom I may have permanent brain damage.
What were the pills?
Seroquel.
You had overdosed on Seroquel intentionally.
Yeah. And I don't remember 1 second of Hogue. Finally, I woke up. Then I moved to Saddleback. Don't remember, probably the first week there. I was there for a couple weeks. And then, so I was in the hospital for like 3 weeks and then had to go to a psych ward for 8 days.
After all those hospital stints?
Mm-hmm.
Why do a psych ward? Because you lost your shit then? Or they just thought she may be a danger to herself, let's go stabilize her in a psych ward?
I'm pretty sure they have to.
It's like a protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime I had tried to attempt suicide, I went to a psych ward. And this time I was there for 8 days. But usually this time I still wanted to die. I still wanted to die. And I got on this is where I think the mental health, like AA doesn't cover everything. Sometimes people with mental health issues can't bring themselves to work a program if they're so deep
in their depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then the medication stuff comes in, and I got on this new med, and it gave me the ability to work my program.
To want to live a life, to want to do things, to want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's hard for me to sometimes accept that things happen for a reason, because that was so intense and I'm like struggling to find out why that happened. But I will say this is the first time in my life where I've made dramatic changes to my program. Mm-hmm. I had this home group. It's Monday through Friday. And I've been stuck in that meeting for 15 years and didn't really do anything else. And now I'm like going to a ton of women's meetings. I'm making women friends that, is so uncomfortable.
Right.
I feel like I don't fit in these women's meetings, but it's slowly becoming, it's more relief. I still go to my home group, but I've been really dedicated to doing things differently because that was so drastic what I did.
I have a couple more questions I wanted to ask you in relation to some of the things you were just talking about. So obviously when somebody has like they're manic depressive or they have bipolar and there are medications that they're prescribed, as a person with mental health, like have you been, because there's different types I see. some people that are like, okay, I know I have this. I have to take this medication so that I don't feel this.
Yeah.
There's some people that are like, I fucking hate that I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take these medications all the time. Some of them make me blow up. Some of them make me overeat.
Yeah.
Some of them make me sleep too much. Some of them make me groggy.
Yeah.
All this, that, and the other. But I don't even want, like, they'll start forgetting to take it, and then they become different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they become like, this guy's not on his meds, or she's not on her meds, right? So, and then there's some people that are like, okay, I know I have to take these,
Mm-hmm.
but like eventually I want to get off of these, and or my meds might be off, and that's why I'm feeling a way of sorts, right?
Yeah.
But eventually I want to get off of these, and I've seen people that have been weaned off.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people that have taken themselves off on their own without a doctor's orders, and then all of a sudden you just like get a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah,
like
different person.
Different person. So that's one of the reasons where I realized, like, mental health is real. Like, chemical imbalances are real. It's not like it's not like everybody's going to be able to just stabilize and be normal.
Yeah.
In a 12-step process, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, and then another thing is this: there are people that are prescribed medications to stabilize,
Mm-hmm.
but they still actively will use drugs. Example, smoke weed, right? Which I believe, if you're being medicated for your disorder and you're doing weed on top of that, it kind of defeats the purpose of the medications that you're taking. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that one psychiatrist I saw said you got to choose. I mean, it's like AA. Do you want relief? Then you need to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want relief from the medication? Then you need to be abstinent.
Right.
And
abstinent means 100% sober.
I think so.
The reason I'm asking this is because I've got some people in my life right now who I'm working with.
Yeah.
Who we're still in the process of hoping that they realize, like, what substances that they're using on top of the fact that they have their mental health.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they remain depressed at certain times, or debilitated, or agoraphobic, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yes.
To the point where they can't leave the house.
That happens to me.
Where you don't want to leave the house.
I don't leave my house.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the worst, when you're in your own personal prison.
Yep. And then it destroys your program.
Right.
And then you make poor decisions. But I think if people aren't surrounded by people with mental health issues, mm-hmm. it's going to be hard for them to grasp. Like, I think because we work in treatment,
right.
and we see it every day. And then I've been to many psych wards. Mental health exists. Mm-hmm. And then my dad and then me. And so AA to me is a perfectly constructed program.
Right.
I am blown away by what they created such a long time ago. And I think they created a very safe place for everyone. The problem with AA is sometimes people dilute the message. So a lot of people in AA think anything from the neck up is loaded, including psychiatric medication.
And AA, they should not go and profess to people in the program that you can't be on medication if they don't know.
It's in the big book. The big book talks about that.
Right.
We are not doctors.
Right.
And then there's an AA pamphlet, Medications in AA.
Sure.
So whenever someone would tell me, oh, I can't be on my meds anymore.
Right.
My sponsor said I can't. I would literally highlight their book and then give them the pamphlet and tell them to bring this to their sponsor, mm-hmm. and then get back to me.
I like that. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you ever meet AA members who are prescribed Xanax?
Mm-hmm.
And consider themselves to be sober in a 12-step program? Do you meet them?
I have. And
when you hear that, do you think, well, they're not really in recovery, or if they're taking their Xanax as prescribed, mm-hmm. who am I to judge?
Yeah, I have learned to, if they're going to self-destruct and if they're lying, mm-hmm. that's eventually going to come out.
Sure.
We don't hide our addiction well. Eventually it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point
you mean like if they're going to misuse their medication?
Yeah. So
do you think a person that's prescribed Xanax, or one that's on Suboxone, for example, which that's not mm-hmm. really part of mental health, that's actually supposed to be for other reasons and purposes.
Yeah.
Do you think that people in the program of a 12-step program that are on these types of medications are blocked from the sunlight of the spirit?
No, I used to have a very strong opinion about it. But I think if something is providing relief for someone
Mm-hmm.
and their life isn't unmanageable and they're not powerless over it, then it is clearly helping them. And you literally cannot care what other people think. I used to also have a strong opinion on Suboxone, medicated assisted treatment. But, once you witness the cases where they have the right intentions and
Sure.
they are being monitored by a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
I think if someone is taking Suboxone on their own, no. I think if you're being monitored by a doctor and then eventually lowering the dose and coming off, with my perspective changed because of all of the overdoses
Mm-hmm.
and the heroin deaths and the fentanyl epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
I have lost so many people I know to fentanyl, and now they're putting it in cocaine. They're pressing pills. People are buying a Xanax thinking it's a Xanax, and then it's cut with fentanyl. I think because so many are people dying, we have to put our ego aside. We have to, because people are dying. That's the real epidemic right now. So I used to have a, more closed mind, but I also know people who were monitored by a doctor for probably their first year on Suboxone and, came off of it, that they tell me they would not be sober today if it weren't for that.
For that long-term
one person
taper.
I know has 10 years.
Right.
Her first year was Suboxone. And if she didn't do that under a doctor's care, she believes she would be dead.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have to keep an open mind to harm reduction. I've actually, I don't know if you know, I've got this major TikTok presence now because it's some people that help. They told me that you got to get on TikTok. So I would go and speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And often, when I talk, I really try to watch my words. I don't want to say, you shouldn't do that. You should. I say, this is what I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I feel. And you got the harm reduction crew that follows us on TikTok, and they'll come stitch your shit.
Yeah.
And they'll grab a piece of something that you're saying, a little piece,
and twist it.
And they'll twist it and turn it into there's this guy named Chad Sbarro. He's from a treatment center, I believe in St. Louis or something like that, where he's a CEO there, right?
Yeah.
He's calling me a body broker, right? Or I'm sorry, his crew of friends call me a body broker, and he comes and tries to correct everything I say. He'll say things like, I could stitch every one of this guy's things, and it's misinformed, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. What's really weird is whenever he's talking to come back and give his input, he's reading off of a fucking cue card.
That's a little weird.
It's dude, if you
rehearsed it.
come at me with your knowledge, not with what you fucking found on Google,
yeah.
right?
Exactly.
It's all good. You want to think your shit, but he thinks that I'm absolutely against harm reduction, against this is what I feel. And I had Estelle from Cornerstone in Arizona on my show the other day. We very much are like-minded. This is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an old school heroin addict, that you've been doing this for 25 years and you definitely need to be on some kind of methadone. I don't really like methadone, but Suboxone for a period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yes.
But as he said, Estelle said this and I say it too. If you're a 23-year-old kid that's been doing fucking heroin or fentanyl for a couple of years, I don't think that the individual really needs to be on Suboxone for a year.
Yeah, I think it's literally a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
And when I had a strong opinion about it and used to think that's not sober, my old sponsor used to always say that's between them and God. And sometimes sponsors will say, well, how do you feel? Do you think it's sober?
Sure.
Do you think you should be counting your time? And only they know in their gut. And I think if it needs to be done correctly, sure. And the person needs to be honest with their sponsor and monitored by a doctor. They can't just be doing this on their own. I think when you follow the plan accordingly and don't relapse, I don't see why it can't be counted, sure. Because they're doing everything in their power to achieve long-term sobriety.
Absolutely. And it's a personal decision. If a person, I do a lot of recovery coaching and sober coaching and things like that. We were taught in some of our classes that when you're with somebody, that they say they're in recovery, even if you don't believe that because of what they might be doing in the recovery process, that's not what people do. If they say they're in recovery, they're in recovery.
Yes.
And that's why this podcast, I call it Pej's Recovery Corner, where we talk about all things recovery or lack thereof, depending on how you roll or who you are or what you think. If you think that you're in recovery for being on Suboxone or being on Xanax or even marijuana maintenance, if that's what you consider yourself as, let's say, California sober or your recovery, that's your recovery.
See, I can't do stuff like that, but
neither can I, because I know my mouth gets dry. I want to drink, and the next thing you know, I'm off to the races, and let's go all night long. Right.
Yes, and I'm a freak on marijuana. I'm so paranoid.
Oh, you become one of those people that becomes paranoid.
I become loaded,
right?
For sure.
On marijuana. From marijuana. There's some people that marijuana does everything for them. The music sounds better. The movies are more enhanced, and the food tastes better. But like some people, they do marijuana, and they're like frying on acid.
I'm loaded and I'm paranoid.
Paranoid.
I can't talk. I laugh at weird moments. It's really not for me.
Sure.
But so I understand people's arguments about medicated assisted treatment. So obviously there's going to be the med seekers.
Yes.
There's going to be the people that are manipulated. But I think if you are properly screened for like your history, how much you use every day, how many times have you overdosed, how much time have you put together, and they just can't get it.
Right.
I think if you are with an honest doctor,
sure,
then you gotta just at some point have an open mind with how many people are dying right now.
And a lot of people are dying.
Yes.
So we want to do everything we can to try to give them a chance to either catch a message, do whatever they need to do so that they can live.
Despite our opinion.
Especially because a person that does fentanyl, I don't really thinks that this could be the time that I die. They think this could be the time that I'm going to get really high like I did the last time.
Yes.
And you know what? I just won't do as much as last time, which then makes it an accidental overdose because you didn't really intend to overdose. And yeah, there's a few people that made some comments here. Let's see.
They might disagree with me. I don't know.
It's okay. Like in the new studio. Okay. Damn. It's much worse. The wounds stay. Isaac says, I don't miss bruxism. Bruxism.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. He's really well versed. Like a little too well. Sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Too advanced for us.
Bipolar is my shit.
That's right. Bipolars unite.
Sean Dracup says, get it, guys. Wendy says, you look handsome, my friend. You're her friend?
No, she's talking to you.
Girls can't be handsome. They can be pretty. Okay.
Kat
says, Danielle.
Hi, Kat.
All right. Jocelyn says, I went out at 6.5 years with preconceived
not with preconceived notions.
Not with preconceived notions about it. I'm 10 years, 3 months plus, and have had a spiritual awakening. But on October 12th, I had to get mental health help, and I'm doing PHP at Overland IOP. I have trauma that still informs my reactions and behaviors, but the 12 steps helped me see more help was needed. I have major depression, PTSD, and ADD, and needed intensive help, and I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Travis McAllister, love you guys so much. And Joe Milligan, I had this experience before. I was in the treatment field when I was in dementia care. A close friend had a series of mental health issues, and I remember trying to get him into psychiatric care, but the AA bleeding deacons were telling me to work the steps harder. Yep. He committed suicide. I was furious at some friends for doing that and loudly laid the responsibility on them for their bigotry against psych meds. Bruxism is tooth grinding.
Oh.
Bruxism. Okay, love you, Pej. All right.
So, one thing I learned is this has been a long journey for me. So you don't realize things right away. It's taken me years to get to know myself. And the best way to do that is in sobriety, seeking all the help you can get. I thought all my problems would disappear. They had only just begun.
Yeah.
The suicide attempts, the depression, the agoraphobia, the debilitating social anxiety. Right. People wouldn't think this because I like to entertain. I like to make people laugh. But I have debilitating anxiety. And here's my problem with treatment. They slap on a diagnosis in the first 3 days.
Right.
They literally don't know this person.
Right.
And then this person over-identifies with that diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get like 6 medications. And then now they're bipolar because someone who doesn't really know them says they are.
Right.
And it's dangerous and it's harmful.
So they're being misdiagnosed.
They can
sometimes.
be. Yeah, they can be. I think it's up to that individual. Like, okay, do treatment, listen, learn.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
would it be fair, do you think, to say, like, when somebody comes into treatment, let's say it's their first time,
mm-hmm.
if they're going to get diagnosed by a doctor, that the doctor takes the time to diagnose to what they assume or think at that time this person is presenting as possibly having, rather than just it's end all be all. This is what the person is, and that's all there is to it. And then possibly like 3 months later to re-diagnose to make sure that your diagnosis matches up with what they were before. Because through the treatment process, a person can definitely change a lot.
Yes.
I think they just want to give the proper meds at that time in case there is psychosis or there is,
I agree,
certain things to stabilize them. But I believe like to re-diagnose until, because I don't, this never happened for me. Like when I went to treatment, the guy, my counselor, he didn't even send me to a psychiatrist. But then again, the place wasn't like a full-blown treatment center.
Yeah.
He just called it that at the time. But like I never got put on any medications, and I did a lot of fucking drugs. Like,
yeah,
I never experienced psychosis, so I guess the guy just assumed, well, he doesn't sit there and talk to the ceiling.
He's good.
He's good. Yeah, right. But I love what you just said right now, because I do believe that a lot of people are over medicated
and over identifying with a thing that they may or may not have. However, people might disagree with this. The model at Northbound that we had at the time, this was back in the day,
old school days,
was 90 days and then long-term outpatient. I believe wholeheartedly that's why we had such a huge success rate. In the 90 days, like you said, the professionals get to observe you and your behavior and your reactions and responses and the way you interact in your relationships in treatment or with staff. Like I know for me in trauma treatment, I was very combative, angry, raging on everyone. So they said that was not necessarily bipolar. It was a trauma response, a fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
And they said I'm in constant fight mode, which I agree with because anger has been a problem my entire life.
Right.
But I just said, oh, it's bipolar. Mm-hmm. But after untangling the trauma, which is painful, it sucks. And then realizing these diagnoses that you think are dramatic, like it's too much to get into my relationship with my dad. Right. But when I got sober, I started understanding him on a greater level, which I have more compassion for him now.
Me too.
Because I have bipolar. I have trauma. I'm an alcoholic. I became everything that I looked down on him for. And it gave me more compassion to a point where they call it a trauma bond.
Sure.
Or even Stockholm syndrome. And I don't like that. But this sobriety now, which I've never tried to change it, I've been looking at that. And I've been working on that relationship because I started to realize when he's bad, I'm bad.
So is this what you were talking about earlier that we could talk about later?
Oh, yeah.
This is it.
I mean,
how's your relationship with your pops right now?
It's good, but it's so sad. My dad has lost everything due to his addiction, his mental illness. He's aggressive. He likes to meddle in our lives and fight our battles, which is great. But he's unhealthy in his communication and impulsive and intense. And he's due to his consistent relapses. I've put him in treatment many times. Yes, codependent, trying to save my dad. And he, he's not someone who wants to be on medication or that can consistently take it.
But you love your dad very much, don't you?
I do. I think
no matter what, through thick and thin,
yeah.
There's that love, the common bond.
Yeah. And I just have to work on knowing that none of my professionals right now that I'm working with think that I need to cut it off entirely. maybe if it was a friend, they'd be like, that's a toxic friend. Like, adios.
Yeah.
But he's my dad.
Yes.
So I just set better boundaries and don't allow his current status to affect my current status. Like, if he's not okay, I can still be okay. Knowing I've done everything I can to help him. And at some point, he's just going to have to help himself. This is why they said I have a trauma bond or Stockholm syndrome, because I reach out to anyone to help me help him.
Right.
And my siblings have learned to say no. For their peace of mind, they can't deal with someone who consistently drinks all the time and disappoints them. So when they wouldn't help me, like if my brother didn't help me put him in treatment or pay for treatment, I would get mad at my brother. When my other brother wouldn't go check on him because I thought he'd be like face down in his vomit, he wouldn't go check on him. I'd get mad at my brother. They would say, call the police if you're that worried. And I was getting mad at everybody's boundaries. Like, my sister, why don't you talk to my dad? Like, he's your dad. And what I realized now is they are protecting their peace and trying to build a healthy life for themselves.
Right.
And I have to respect that, because look at what it's done to me getting involved. It has destroyed me. And so I'm learning that I have to respect other people's boundaries because they're doing it for their peace.
This has been very powerful to hear all this, to do all this. I want you to know something, a couple of things real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. I know I said that a second ago, but this has gone a lot longer than usual, and I think it's needed to be talked about. It doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah.
One of the things is, like, a few months ago, I noticed on your Facebook, like, everybody was freaking out because they were all concerned about you, and you were kind of out of the game. Like, nobody really knew what happened, or some may have known.
Yeah.
But I was afraid to ask. When I see, like, on Facebook, like, there's somebody that's passed away, I don't sometimes know what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
So I just don't say. I put a fucking prayer symbol and a heart. Like,
love that.
That's all. I don't want to sit here and say too much. And with you, in your case, I was like, I love Danielle. I don't know what's going on with her, but I'm sure if I need to know, I'll know when I need to know. Yeah. And then today I know. Like, this is really cool that you actually took the invitation to come down and be so transparent and open and talk in depth about all this stuff. So this is needed to happen for a long time. We talked about this before, like, I think last year. Yeah. Now, another thing is this, and I want to ask you one last question, and I'm sure that I'll get a good answer for it, and then we'll wrap it up. But do you see or think that this whole pandemic that's happened in the last 2 years or whatever, the way that it's left people in the world, even in our nation, has created and nurtured much more mental health because of the happenings of the world?
Absolutely. I fell into a deep depression. You walk outside, it looks like zombie land. Right. No one's moving. Right. And you're in your house all day. Some people need to go to work. They need to go out. Right. Some people thrive working from home. Sure. And it's terrible for people with mental health. The relapse rate, the suicide rate in teens that spiked. I was a very outspoken during this pandemic. I saw. People might disagree with me, but I think it's because I have mental health issues, and I was watching the other side. So there was the side that needed to protect people from COVID. Mm-hmm. Shut down your business. You're selfish. Follow the rules. You're selfish. Right. But then people are still dying in other ways. Mm-hmm. And I advocated for that side. Right. I think because I identify with it. Right. You know, people working their whole lives, achieving their goal, and for that to be ripped from them. Right. And then the teens. That'll fuck with you. Yeah, the teens killing themselves, the fentanyl relapses, people dying from that, the overdoses spiking. Right. Children going, behind in school. Mm-hmm. Not paying attention in online classes, like you don't really know when the camera's off what the fuck they're doing. Yeah. Right. I think there needs to be a happy medium. Right. Because I kind of went a little extreme, like advocating for that side. Like, this is the only way. We can't do this to people. Right. How dare you? Right. And I think there is a way to address the safety of COVID and a way to not destroy somebody's entire livelihood. And we have to figure that out. It can't be black or white. We have to protect people from COVID, and we have to protect people from government overreach. And I think because of the way it was affecting people's lives, we have to have compassion for that as well.
Love it.
Not just the people dying from COVID.
I love it.
So I think there's a way.
There is a way. There's many ways.
There has to be.
We can be some of the people that will be vocal and try to press that.
I'm a little too vocal, but I've toned it down.
Well, either way. I mean, it's not what we're saying. It's how we're saying it.
Yeah.
But I love you. I love our friendship.
I love you
You're
too.
such a good human being. I'm always here for you. It's such a privilege to have you here today and to see you in good spirits. And I love your smile. It's very contagious, and your personality for that matter.
Thank you.
So with that said, thank you for all that came on today. And we're going to sign off, and I hope you have a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.